Welcome back to the Crooked Spine Show. Are you tired of your doctor's first decision with any pains you come in with is medication, their first choice, sometimes even shots? In my interview today with Stacey Roberts, she is a practicing physical therapist in Wisconsin, has also practiced in Australia, has written a recent book called The Pain-Free Formula. She helps patients understand the holistic approach to medicine, also using functional medicine practices to help her patients get better and stay better. She includes also in her practice, imaging, blood work, you name it, all in the 9 yards. So let's go over to our talk today with her. Understand how to get healthy naturally first before you do anything, especially in chronic pain in all stages of life, maybe being a youth, maybe a middle-aged person like myself, or someone who is a senior. All right, my friends, enjoy the talk. There are links to join her telehealth and also get her book in the show notes, along with links to get to our previous podcast as a podcast app or on YouTube. My friends, have a great week, and I'll see you in a couple weeks. All right, welcome back to another Crooked Spine Show interview, my friends. Where to understand is why are medications your medical doctor's first choice, especially going through your insurance company for one too. Why does that happen? And who do you really trust for your overall health? You would give advice to live a long life naturally. How would you find that advice? Stacey Roberts, my guest today, has enjoyed a long career as a holistic practitioner and functional medicine specialist, helping patients with a wide range of health conditions. If you want to live a long, healthy, natural life, listen to Stacey Roberts. This is how doctors should treat their patients at all stages of life and health conditions. So Stacey, take it over. Give me some background information. How did you get into this?
Sure. Hey, thanks so much, Dr. Tony, for having me on your show. This is fantastic.
Good.
So background information about me, I've been a physical therapist for about 34 years. Then I moved to Australia kind of early on in my marriage and couldn't practice over there as a physical therapist due to licensing issues. So I started and I had some of my own health issues that came up after the birth of my son. So I was trying to figure that out, and conventional medicine told me, look, your blood tests are normal, you're fine. And I'm sitting there with dry patches on my face, dark circles under my eyes, and, sleeping 2 or 3 hours a night. And I wasn't fine. So that made me move into more of a natural approach. And I became a naturopath and a master herbalist over there and had a clinic in Australia. Then came back after my son was interested in coming back to the US for high school. So then settled back in, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I grew up, and opened a clinic, New You Health and Wellness there. And, the rest is...
How long is that clinic been open for?
So I opened it in just at the end of COVID, like beginning of 2021, end of 2020.
Good. And how was your experience in Australia? How is your healthcare different relative to here?
Very well. Okay. This was back in 2004, 2005, when I moved there, or when I had the clinic there. They were just much more open to natural remedies. What's really interesting about that is they love their herbal tinctures. Like, they love to drink their herbal tinctures and don't really love...
What is that?
Where it's a tincture is like an herbal tincture. So it's an extract from an herb that, comes in a liquid form. They do less tablets and more tinctures over there, at least back when I was there. So I had a dispensary and did a lot of combination of herbs and supplements and lifestyle, and then did my physical work kind of on the side as well, to help couples with fertility issues, male and female, with hormone issues. And then have applied that into my physical therapy practice here. I got my nursing degree to expand my scope of practice. And so I can do more functional medicine. So now I've got the 1 foot in conventional, 1 foot in natural, and put that together for my patients.
And going back to, say, Australia versus America, how the U.S. runs, how much is pharmaceutical drugs part of their medical treatment versus what we experience here?
It's still very much a big part of it. It's not quite as expensive over there. They have, drugs that come into that country, have to be at a certain price point for their Medicare over there, because socialist, everybody's got Medicare over there, basically. So it's still a big part but they're much more educated and more open. Like when I lived there, you would go to a strip mall and there would be a naturopath, an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, a physio, a chiropractor, like all in one area. Here in Milwaukee, it's starting to be like that a little bit more. But 20 years ago it was already that way over there. So people were more open to more natural remedies and more natural ways of doing things.
It's more of I want to call it a higher demand, I'm assuming too, if you're able to have that in a wellness center type of aspect. Going to nursing too, why did nursing and becoming a nurse and going through the internship and practicing, did that still reinforce your desire to be a functional medicine specialist, or did that kind of go, okay, now I want to, or how did that work for you?
So when I moved back to the U.S. my license here in the U.S. was physical therapist. So when I came back and said, hey, I can talk to you about hormones and help you with fertility and, do lifestyle stuff, people were like, but you're a physical therapist. So I knew I needed to do something for kind of the public's perception. So went back to nursing school to increase my scope of practice. I'm close to being an NP. I just have to find some time to do my clinicals. So I figured that would help, and it has. So, people now that I say also that I'm a nurse, people are like, oh, okay, I get it. You do functional medicine. That makes sense. Where there was before a little disconnect when I would say that just if my only credential was physical therapy, even though my basis of knowledge has been pretty much the same, it's easier for my patients to understand.
And going into physical medicine, looking at that aspect, even herbal supplements for one also, why did you choose to help your patients without drug surgeries or injections?
Great question, because people ask me, when you become a nurse practitioner, are you going to, prescribe medications and do injections and do all that type of stuff? And my answer to that is maybe slightly, because I don't completely discount conventional medicine. But my first step is always going to be, let's find the root cause. Because as you know, what happens many times, and I've been in physical therapy for a long time, so I've seen it back where Voltaren used to be a prescribed medication, right? And now it's over the counter in cream form, right? So there's different ways. Things have changed significantly. Back 30 years ago, there wasn't all the NSAIDs. There wasn't everything to do that everybody thought, oh, I have a headache, I should take a medication. Yeah. I bumped my leg and my knee swollen. Oh, I should take an anti-inflammatory. That wasn't the way it was back then. So what we did, 30 years ago was a lot of what we're doing now is help patients try to avoid the surgeries, help patients try to stronger, try to find that root cause. So we've gotten more away from that as medications have become more popular. And in my book, I talk about in the pain-free formula, the amount of money that is now spent on advertising medications, both digitally is just billions. And then, it used to be just TV ads. That's still happening, but now it's just, mushrooms, big, huge mushroom cloud of advertising for pharmaceuticals here, which was, we talked about Australia. The difference is you didn't see any of those ads on television in Australia at all. So,
and not just Australia, it's all Europe, anywhere in the world really does not allow legally those amount of ads or those type of ads, even just overall marketing, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, as far as I don't know, again, I haven't been there for 10 years, so I don't know what laws may have changed then, but back then you just didn't see it at all on television. And now I don't know about digital ads over there, but it's just ballooned here. So people look at that first because, it feels like it's the easiest way to do something. And maybe in the short term it is, but you really want to get to the crux of the issue. You really need to look at those root causes for long-term health, because what people don't often know about the NSAIDs that they take regularly is that the longer you take those, the more increase of chances you have to develop chronic pain. And also that and pain meds, the longer you take those, the more sensitive you become to pain. So in essence, they make you hurt more the longer you take them. So they're not, I don't think anybody's original intention, except for people who are making money off of it, was for people to take those forever and ever, right? Let's get through the certain phase, hopefully get off of them. But we know that hasn't been the case for some people, unfortunately, because of the addictive nature of especially opioids, right?
Is it almost like something to where, let's give them pain meds. I want to say 90 days into it, or even less than that too, the medication isn't working. What's the next step? More pain meds. What's that's not working. What's the next step? Maybe injections, maybe a specialist, neurological, blah, blah, blah. versus like, hey, let's take a step back and look at the whole person versus everything else. And what are common side effects, say from common pain medications for chronic pain and or injections?
Well, the cortisone injections are the big one, right? So they are still relatively cheap from an insurance standpoint, but research has shown very clearly now over the last 5 years that cortisone, if given either too many times or they don't even know, maybe after one, we're not 100% sure, can degrade the joint. So you're causing more degeneration of the joint. So the old belief used to be, look, we'll do cortisone injections until your joint's so bad, then we'll just do the replacement, right? Well, they didn't really talk about the fact that cortisone injections were causing the knees or
We're
joints.
going to accelerate that process for you.
Right. Exactly. So, some people would go like monthly or, quarterly or whatever. Now that's still available. And when I talk to physicians about, why they're still doing cortisone injections, even though they know that this data is out there, they say the patients want immediate relief and it's covered by insurance.
Aren't you the doctor? Aren't you the one who's supposed to be controlling that? Aren't you the guardian of the patient's health?
It's hard for them because the patient will just go someplace else to get it right. I get that, but I think there's some doctors that do a fantastic job of educating patients and helping them find the next step instead of continually doing those injections, and then others just give them the injections because that's what they want and that's what happens, which is unfortunate, especially in lieu of the new evidence. Now there are other injections that are out there that are getting some good research behind them, like PRP, stem cell, all those types of things, but even those at times are used too soon or not in conjunction with other things that can significantly help the patient. Like I have a soft wave device. I don't know if you've heard of soft wave.
Yes.
The soft wave is a shock wave device, a very particular type of shock wave device, electrohydraulic, broad focused shock wave. So what that means is it covers a larger surface area and gets deeper than any other shock wave device on the market. It's also much more comfortable for my patients. And if it is a localized issue, Tony, this 80% of the time, if not more, will significantly reduce or eliminate that pain. Now, as a physical therapist, I also work on them and their biomechanics so we can take the trigger of the pain, right? Because we want long-term results. But for some of my patients, even utilizing soft wave, my expertise and the therapists that I have here have 30 years of expertise, they're still not getting better. So then we look at why would that be? And the new research points to gut health as an issue, hormone health as an issue for joint pain. So soft wave is absolutely amazing, and 90% of my patients utilize it, and 70 to 90%, depending on the diagnosis, get better from it. But now I'm starting to see when I talk about food sensitivities, gut health, hormones. Here in Milwaukee, patients are kind of leaning in and they want more. 10 years ago, they'd be like, "What are you talking about? That's
give me a beer. I'm good to go. Done."
Right. So all the education, the podcast like you're doing, all the education that's out there is helping patients understand there are other ways, because not everybody wants to get injections. Not everyone wants to take the long-term, pain meds that can impact your liver, kidneys, or your NSAIDs that can affect your gut, or your stomach and your kidneys. People are kind of waking up to the fact that there's more out there that can keep them healthier for longer.
And when you talk about inflammation a second ago, inflammation in the gut, how does that transfer inflammation or sensitivity of joint or muscle?
Sure. So the newer research is called on the gut joint axis is absolutely fascinating. So we know everybody has heard of, probiotics or the microbiome. So, at least that's kind of in regular vernacular these days. So what we want is a nice, diverse, healthy microbiome to help us decrease the inflammation in our system. But what happens either from growing up with, antibiotic use or utilizing lots of medications growing up, or stress, or eating poorly, or, I'm just describing the average American, growing up, right?
What's it called? The SAD diet?
Right. Exactly. Yep. So they then will, the standard American diet, they then will potentially have gut issues, right? So I'm sure you've heard of leaky gut. So if your listeners haven't heard of that, that's where the gut, think of the gut as like a tube, becomes more permeable than what it should be. And what that means is more stuff is getting into the body, into the bloodstream than what should. One of those things that do get into the bloodstream is something called lipopolysaccharides, or LPS, which is a bacteria that should stay in the gut, and we eliminate it through the feces.
Yes.
But what happens if it gets into the system is it creates systemic inflammation. And what they're finding in research is this LPS is elevated in joints that are showing significant levels of inflammation and degeneration, like in arthritis. So the question is it always wear and tear for arthritis, or is it this LPS, which and other things like it, which can cause degeneration of those joints? So SoftWave helps to decrease LPS by upregulating something called the toll-like receptor 3 in the joint. So again, locally, it's fantastic. But if the issue is coming from the gut, we also have to work on optimizing gut health to improve the health of the gut, decrease those they're called tight junctions in the gut, which connect and become a little bit loose, for lack of a better word. That allows that excess permeability, the stuff to get in the body that's not supposed to. So if we can repair the gut, improve the health of those tight junctions, that decreases systemic inflammation, then that has a significant effect on the localized inflammation as well.
It's almost the joints telling the body, hey, there's a problem here. But how, and for your protocol for one too, as a practitioner, how often do you do the sound wave, the shock wave, to where you go, okay, I'm seeing improvement, but not enough. Let's test your gut. What is your frequency of treatment? How does that work? Or is that more intuition?
Sure. So some patients come to me for the holistic view of they want, okay, my gut looked at, my hormones looked at,
Good.
Let's use the soft wave stuff. Right now, that's a minority of my patients. Many of them want to come in for that, quick fix. They've tried everything else. It's not working. Will soft wave help? By the second or third treatment, if they're not 50 to 100% better based on the physical therapy that we're doing, manual therapy and soft wave, the biomechanical analysis, if they're not 50 to 100% better, something else is going on. So that's those set of patients we talk about all the way through. We're already talking about the holistic approach. Then we start looking at, depending on how they're presenting to me, maybe we look at hormones first because they're perimenopausal, or maybe they already have digestive issues. So we might look at the gut first, or we might look at all those things together. It's really up to the patient as to lead me to what they want to do after I give them the information and give them my feedback.
It's almost you're going, okay, you're always looking at, I would assuming once you walk in a clinic as a whole person first, we'll treat that problem, but there might be something else going on. If this doesn't feel like it's working well, let's look at this next.
Correct.
So you're giving them an expectation of, okay, we're okay, but if we're not seeing that expectation, let's go to plan B.
Exactly. Yep. And it's completely up to the patient. Like if they want to do plan B along with plan A, absolutely, we'll do that. If they're like, look, this is, out of pocket that I'm paying this, so let's just see if this works first.
Practicality.
Yep,
got it.
Exactly. Practicality. It's right now not a treatment that's covered by insurance, so it is out of pocket. So let's rule that out. And in the meantime, we're giving them other things that they can do to, optimize their situation. So usually they're getting better, but they really should be significantly better, if not 100% better, between that third and sixth treatment. So by the second or third treatment, we know whether it's simply localized issue or is there a systemic issue that we need to address.
And part of your intake is there a diet questionnaire, an exercise questionnaire too?
Actually, I'm great. Thank you for asking that. I'm developing, we have a very extensive questionnaire that patients fill in. And that helps me kind of pinpoint, but that's only for one-on-one. So what I've developed, and that'll be launched along with my book in mid-March 2025, is a quiz, like a pain-free quiz. So you'll be able to ask questions that will then kind of point you in the direction of, this is potentially localized, this is potentially hormonal, this is potentially, your gut, or this is probably a combination of that. So we'll be able to, besides our one-on-one work that we do with our comprehensive evaluation, we'll eventually have people have that information that they can take to their provider or come to us via telehealth if they're not local in Milwaukee and Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, that we can discuss that information more at length. So at least it'll give them some direction. But it's always, everybody's a different person, right? Our microbiome is also like a fingerprint. Everybody's microbiome is completely different. So we need to look, medicine needs to be more personalized, which it is going in that direction in many ways.
Well, you're helping someone also understand, this is my health. I can take this information, what Stacy and her team is telling me, and now take it to me if I need me, my medical doctor, hey, what do you guys want to do? And once they go, we don't do much of that. Great. I'm going back to Stacy and let her take care of my health.
Right.
Giving someone a way to educate themselves versus just go, yes, doctor, yes, doctor, yes, doctor.
100%. Absolutely.
It's amazing when people want the, and again, it's the same thing. They have to want the information, be at the right time in their, I want to call it their life. I
Right.
say I ask my younger patients too, are you still invincible? They go,
Mhm.
yeah. I'm like, then don't worry about it. Keep drinking Red Bull. You'll be fine. French fries are fine for you. Once they go, you know what? I'm feeling like I may want to live past 30, 40 years old. Let me
Mhm.
start taking care of my health. They go, okay, now they'll listen.
Yeah, it's when you start making those noises when you get up off the chair that you didn't need,
Ugh,
like, ouch,
why,
you
why
know?
does gravity get so heavy, especially afternoon, right?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
my own personal thing is like, once I come home from work, I walk the dog, take your trash out, whatever I want to do before I sit down. Once I sit down, man, it's hard to get up.
No,
You know?
right? I feel like I'm in a vortex once I sit down and just kind of sucked into staying there.
When you have a good day, that's right. When you have a good day, going to talked about a little bit of chronic pain, and how does stress affect or effect someone's ability to improve their health?
Excellent question. So stress affects people in different ways, right? So
Mhm.
let's just focus just on cortisol. People think of
Good.
cortisol as a stress hormone. Stress impacts many other body systems like thyroid and even the gut as well, because when we're under stress, that permeability that we talked about increases. But when we talk about stress, people usually think cortisol. Cortisol gets a bad rap. Cortisol is actually anti-inflammatory, right? Cortisone, which we're injecting into joints,
Mhm.
is a derivative, right, of cortisol, right? It's one of the metabolites that our body releases from the body from cortisol. So we need a good amount of cortisol to help us manage stress, and it can be anti-inflammatory. But
Yes.
when we're under significant stress, whether it's emotional stress or stress from
Mhm.
like foods that we're putting in our body that are causing inflammation or excessive weight gain, that kind of stress on our system, cortisol still goes up, right? The body doesn't pick or choose,
Doesn't know.
how to react to a certain stress because it's a certain kind of stress. It just reacts to stress.
Mhm.
So then that excessive cortisol, that catabolic nature of that can contribute to breaking down the body. So breaking down the
Good.
tissues of the body. And when we go through a hormonal shift for men and women clearly perimenopause into menopause, men potentially, a little bit later in life, we call it jokingly andropause. A shift in hormones can happen. And then also if our cortisol levels are too high or too low, that significantly impacts our ability to manage stress. And what people don't understand too is that your hormones have a direct anti-inflammatory effect. Your sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone,
Good.
have a nice anti-inflammatory effect. So when the shift happens and those hormones are less and less, that decreases our natural anti-inflammatories. So we want to kind of try to maximize that, maximize our gut health, and manage our cortisol levels by managing our stress to be able to improve joint health. I mean, I've had patients sit across from me and, I say, I can tell that, they're, stressed about things or they tell me about things that being
Mm.
stressed. And I'll say, when they're talking about the stressful event, I was like, how's your back feel now? They're like, my God, it's hurting more, when they talk about that particularly stressful event.
Yeah.
So the mind body connection is completely there. It doesn't mean it's all in their head, but it's definitely something that the way we're thinking about things, the stress that we're under increases those molecules in our body that can be pro-inflammatory when there's too much of them. And then that exacerbates some of the pain.
How do you communicate to patients, for example, when you see the first assessment with them too? Look, you've had this, you're not doing this. Seems like you're basically in your mind, I'm going to go, they're in chronic fatigue. There's overwhelmed with stress right now. How do you communicate to patients toward linking that, where if we do this, you're stressful. This is your stress. This is how we kind of quantitate it or objectively look at it. That point and go, this is where we're going to how to deal with that to make your body feel less stressed, then you can actually recover and heal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the challenge, right? So I
Mhm.
would love for every single patient that I sit across from to do all the things, right? To work on their gut, to optimize their diet,
Compliance.
use
Yeah.
their hormones, to meditate, do, different stress management. I
Mhm.
would love everybody to do that. But not everybody wants to, nor is everybody ready to do it. So by listening to
Exactly.
the patient, meeting them where they're at,
Mhm.
and then doing things such as, so if I think it's, cortisol is an issue, I'll say things like, so, do you feel like you get a second wind at nighttime? So instead of cortisol being low, where it's supposed to be low before you go to sleep, it bounces up again. And then they maybe have sleep issues. So I know that their cortisol level is probably a little bit too high. They can't fall asleep, all that type of stuff. So then they're like, yeah, I do have that issue. And then I go, okay, so this is why that potentially is happening. And because that's happening, we also need to address this. So I'd really meet them where they're at. I listen to what their symptoms are. I listen to what they're dealing with. In my mind, I'm going, okay, that potentially contributes to thyroid issues, right? Or cortisol issues, or low estrogen, progesterone. And then really feed back to them the real life scenarios that they go, yeah, actually, that's exactly how I feel. So then they start to go, okay, I think unconsciously she goes, okay, if can relate to that because she's seen so many people and helped so many people, then maybe she can help me. Maybe I do need to do these things, but there's still resistance. You know, I still, if there's food sensitivity, some people are like, I'm just never giving up coffee. I don't care if, you know, my leg falls off. I'm just not going to give it up. Right. So you have to work around and meet the patient where they're at.
There's always a plan A, a plan B, but when you get them to buy in a little bit sometimes and they start seeing results, is it your sense too, to where they go, okay, now what else I can do? Once you start seeing like, I'm actually feeling better, I'm doing better, I'm sleeping better, I feel like less stressed. What else now, Stacey, what else can I do? Do you feel like that happens?
Sometimes. So there's some patients that come in and they're chronically fatigued. They're just, you know, downtrodden, they're depressed. They couldn't, if I told them to do a food diary, they'd punch me in the face. Right. If
you get out of the way when you ask, you're like,
they would punch me in the face. So for those patients, what I say is, look, let's do a couple things here and there. And sometimes it's, you know, if their hormone levels are an issue and it's a female, perimenopausal, menopausal, sometimes a little bit of hormone replacement first, which I typically don't like to recommend. But if they can't function, they just might need something to give them a little bit of foundation to function from. Then once they're feeling a little bit better, if they want to come off those hormones, potentially they could, or they might keep those going. But then we work on the eating plan, we work on the gut health, because they finally have the energy to do that.
There you go.
The majority of the patients that come in, if they're not like that, we look at the hormone replacement potentially as one of the last things to do. Because again, hormone replacement can be covering up issues with gut health, can be covering up issues with food sensitivities, or other joint issues that might be coming from the gut and from excessive stress on the system. So we often want to do that last for many people versus first. I'm not against it at all. I just think sometimes the hormone replacement is done too soon without getting to the underlying cause, but not everybody wants to take the time to do that right away.
It's almost, and some people realize once you start taking hormones or anything artificial in your body, where it's just trying to mimic the natural supplements of your body or hormones, then what does the body do? It self-regulates.
Yep. Feedback inhibition. So if you take, like, I have to take thyroid hormone for the rest of my life because I've taken it. I started taking it before I knew some natural interventions for thyroid. Sure. I don't know, maybe I still would have ended up on it because we've got a very big genetic history, but once I start taking thyroid, it decreases my thyroid's ability to make it, because it goes, well, what the heck do I need to make it for? I'm getting it right from outside the body. That's the same with any hormone. So if you're taking progesterone, testosterone, DHA, estrogen, whatever, depending on the amount and the length of time that you're taking it, that feedback inhibition happens. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing for everybody, right? Everybody has their own choice of how long they want to take things for, all that type of stuff. Some people want to just take it to get to the point where they can do the other stuff. Some people will take it forever and ever and say, I'm going to take it till, you know, the day I die. Everybody is different, and everybody should have their own choice in what they want to do.
Well, they should, and also they should know all the information too, and not be naive of what the long-term or short-term effects are, benefits and risk. Then you go, now sign the line, you do due diligence, that point now, let's agree to do this and this.
Yeah, and that was the point of why I wrote the pain-free formula. I just want patients to have the information at hand so they can make the decision for themselves. To not only think, oh, there's only one option for me to do this. No, there's some other things to do, which may take a little bit more of your time and energy. Maybe that's not right for you to now, but you'll have the information in order to be able to make that choice at some point when you want to do it.
And you said it a few times too, patients have the choice. They can choose how they want to take care of their body, their overall health, short-term and long-term. And sometimes they don't feel they can do that.
Correct. And I think a lot of times it's because we've been trained in our generation, a little bit less, my son's generation, a little bit less. We've been trained to only go, the doctor said to do this, so I'm going to do that. Now we become more accountable for our own health, which is good, right? We want to take that accountability. We still want to get that information from our trusted health professionals so that we can make the choice. But I'm in a partnership with my patient. I'm not in a dictatorship with patients. I'm in a partnership that says, hey, these are the things that I believe are going on. This is what's helped other people. Is this the way that you want to do it? And if our place isn't the right place for them, they can go other places too, right? So it really is about developing that relationship with that person, partnership with them, and laying down all the choices and seeing which one's the best choice for them.
It's almost going, I'm going to be on your side. I'm going to take this personal and professional if you get results, or good or bad. I want to walk you through this and walk you through your whole journey, if you want me to help you get to the end point where you have good quality of life, understand how to take care of your own health. At that point, you become your best doctor.
Right. I mean, I have patients right now that are seeing me just for gut issues, not for joint issues. And it's a puzzle, so we try some things and, something might not work. We got to go back to the drawing board, try a couple other things. But that's also because of 10, 20 years of, being told, take this medication, take this medication, take this medication. Now their body, bowel has become a bit lazy because they've been on laxatives forever and ever. So, they might have had SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, that was not diagnosed or addressed. Might have food sensitivities that wasn't addressed for years, even decades.
Exactly.
So gut issues that are prolonged and ongoing can be a puzzle. So we look at trying to solve that puzzle by looking at, okay, let's use this piece, see if that fits. That doesn't, then we got to do this piece, see if that fits, right? So everybody's different, and we want to personalize that program for them.
And when you talk about personalized program, you talked about blood work and something like that. What kind of imaging or objective lab testing do you actually do in your clinic?
We don't do any imaging in our clinic because it's usually covered by patient's insurance. So we send them out to get that done, or make suggestions that they can talk to their primary care doctor about. But we will do certain urine tests, saliva tests, send them out for particular blood tests, things that we feel like it will give us information to make the next decision. We do breath testing for SIBO as well too, in some cases, with some patients. So I like the urine test for hormones just because it looks at metabolites. Metabolites basically are the parts of the hormones where the body recycles them. So the body needs to get rid of some of those and recycle some of those so that the new hormones can be made in the body, seeing what the body's holding on to, seeing what the body's getting rid of, and urine testing, which can be done throughout the day, versus the blood test that's just that one time at that one moment. And it's not things that have actually gotten absorbed into the blood or into the body yet. They're still just floating around the bloodstream. Blood tests can offer some really good information. So can urine tests, and so can saliva tests. So again, a lot of times it comes down to a point of cost too. So I'm always very cognitive of that. This is what it costs. Do we need to do everything at once? No. We can do things, spread out over time, or we can do everything at once, depending on, again, what the patient comfort level is.
But you're giving them all the information, again, to make their own decision, which is great. And talk about your team at your office too. New You Health and Wellness. Talk about your team. Why do you have such a diverse team?
So I have an exercise physiologist who's also a personal trainer, myself, who's a physical therapist, and almost a nurse practitioner, but RN, MSN. I have my colleague and dear friend of over 40 years who's been a physical therapist for the same amount of time that I have been. So we really try to take that diverse background because we want to learn from each other. And we'll be hiring a nurse practitioner coming up over the next couple months, getting a medical doctor. And we just want to cover as many bases as we possibly can because we learn from each other. We just stay only in our lane and only look at stuff from physical therapy. That's it. Then I'm not learning from other people about other things. So what we learn from each other helps our patients in the long run. So that's what, I'm
assuming too, you take, say, for example, Sally, she has a situation and you're going to ask a nurse practitioner or other people, hey, what do you think about this? I saw this before. What's your opinion on this? So you almost have being in one clinic, you're having 4 or 5 doctors working with you, healthcare practitioners, to help you with your overall health.
Absolutely. And, not everybody knows everything, right? So sometimes I'll get stuck with a patient and bounce.
Unless you're my wife, then she knows everything. I have to talk to her.
Hey, watch it. She probably does. So with the patient's permission, they'll say, okay, I'm going to discuss this case with, this other person. And then always inevitably, they'll be like, have you tried this exercise or have you tried this, test? And I'm like, oh yeah, that would be a really good idea. Right. So even myself, who's been doing functional medicine for 20 years, doing physio for 34 years, even with soft wave, I didn't think that would work. I was like, there's no way that can work.
Come on. No.
Right. But I had to be open to going, oh, wait, actually, I watched it. It did work on that person. Why? So then I start to learn more and learn more about that. So I feel like the more open I am, but I can be very, very skeptical. So I'm not just open, embracing everything. I figure out what it is, evaluate it. Will this potentially bring value to my patients? And then, because I'm very protective of what what I present to my patients. I don't want them to be, just getting
not a guinea pig.
Yes, all these different, modalities that maybe they all work, but why? Like, do they need all of that? Right.
We've seen a lot of it. I've been practicing 30 years. Also, it's almost 25 years. It's almost like you see a lot of things come and go. Mm-hmm. What really works?
Right.
What are they selling versus what's benefited the patient?
Exactly.
That's fantastic. That's what we all hope for that. Tell me about a couple success stories you've had, long-term patients that will never leave you, and why.
One patient in particular, I do pelvic health and sexual health, and I've treated that for many years. But this patient in particular, she was game to give soft wave, the modality that we use to work for her dyspareunia or painful intercourse, because it helps to increase blood flow. So she had what's called an upregulated pelvic floor, really, really kind of a lay term to use would be tight or muscles with tension. So those muscles had less blood flow. So I was the first one with this device to kind of think a little bit out of the box of how that can help with health. So I said, look, let's try this. And she did fantastic. From the first get-go, she was like, oh my gosh, that made a huge difference. She was able to have intercourse after not having intercourse without pain for 2 or 3 years. She was able to have intercourse after 2 or 3 sessions with a little bit of pain, but then eventually with no pain. I followed up with her probably 6 months, or it might have been a year, just to see how she was doing, because it took only 3 or 4 sessions, which is unheard of. If you're a pelvic health therapist listening, you're like, no way, couldn't have taken that. Because literally before it would take 12, 18, 20 sessions. So I called her up and a guy answered, and I was like, oh, I was looking for so-and-so. And he's like, yeah, I know, I saw your name pop up and I'm so-and-so's husband. And I said, oh, great to meet you. Just have her give me a call back. He's like, wait a second. I wanted to talk to you. I was like, what do you do? And he goes, I've been always wanting to say this to you. He said, thanks so much for giving me my wife back. So, and of course, tears were, streaming down my face and things like that. You just don't realize the ongoing impact that you have when they leave and they're feeling good, and that's maintained. You don't know how it impacts their health and their life and their family. So that was really amazing. Another one that sticks out when I think about it now is, and I talk about her in my book too, is that she came to me for knee pain, significant knee pain. And she was kind of getting better with soft wave, and then would go back and getting better with soft. So then we looked at her eating plan, and we looked at certain foods that she was eating a lot of that tended to be inflammatory. So I said, let's just trial removing this one thing. And then we did and she was amazing. She stuck to it. She did everything she was supposed to do. Yeah, felt really good. So we went back to doing soft wave after we took a little break and worked on her diet, and it worked extremely well. Her pain was down to minimum. But then she says to me, I'm going to Disney World, next week. How do you think I'm going to do? And I'm like, oh, Disney World, right? Food's terrible. She's going to be up on her feet all the time. I'm like, I
get a big turkey. What is a big turkey leg? Whatever is, you're fine. Carnivore diet.
Exactly. So when she came back in, I saw her name on the schedule probably a month later, and I was like, oh man, here we go. Like, how bad was it? Da, 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 da. She sat down and I said, so waiting here, figure, how was it? She's like, it was amazing. I took, we didn't buy anything on the grounds. We had it in the car. Yeah, it was a pain to go out to the car and eat the foods that I need to eat, but overall, the kids were fine with it. And she said she didn't have any pain if she did all the tape, wore the sleeve that I gave her, the shoes that we talked about, changed her eating plan. And I was just like, that is awesome. So she was able to take her child or her children to this Disney World and participate, like be a part of the experience.
I'll be out here, kids. Have fun on that ride. Enjoy yourself.
Exactly. And that will be lifetime memories that they'll have forever. So I could go on and on about different stories, but those.
It's like that situation there. That's not. I want it's not a rarity, but you were able to link it to she's having this. Let's look at this instead.
Yeah, exactly. She was
medically they would have removed her knee for looking at her gut.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
way.
way.
Yeah,
there's no
exactly.
way. Yeah. Let's talk about. You mentioned earlier too. Your book coming out. The Pain-Free Formula. What is your book Who's your book for? Who's the audience for that?
Sure. So it's called The Pain-Free Formula, Solving the Puzzle of Muscle and Joint Pain Without Surgery, Injections, or Medications. Mm-hmm. So the audience for that is some people who they feel like they've tried everything. Okay. They feel like, they've gone to the chiropractor, the acupuncturist, the physical therapist, the doctor, and nothing's worked. So they either want to avoid surgery, or they're even told that there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can operate on. Anybody who wants to potentially, and sometimes we're just priming them and help them do better, like what's called prehab, do better after they have surgery. But anybody who wants to know, okay, why do I still have pain after 5 years or 10 years or 2 years? Why hasn't my body been able to heal that issue itself? Exactly. So if you've done everything, it's not worked, or if you're curious about how your hormones and your gut health and food sensitivities might be affecting your overall health and your joints, then the Pain-Free Formula is for you.
Why did you write the book, Miss Stacy?
Well, interestingly, I wrote it because I don't know if I can say this on the
board.
podcast. I was pissed off, actually. So I hurt my knee myself. I had ACL surgery like 1986, however many years ago that is. Yeah. And the doctor told me then, you'll probably have arthritis. Well, I never had any problems with my knee at all. And I was at a wedding with my son and doing the polka with my son. Actually, I saw him doing it and I was like, dear God, that does not look good. I got to teach him how to do the polka. So I went out there dancing with my son, which there should be warning signs at weddings that if you're over 50, that
don't even try it.
Hazardous to your health. I'm doing the polka. I hear a massive pop in my knee, immediately searing pain, and my knee swells up like a balloon. I write about the whole story in the Pain-Free Formula, but subsequently, as a physical therapist, I was able to address it, get back to walking. Softwave was phenomenal in addressing it. But then I was curious what that pop was. So I went to a colleague, an orthopedic surgeon, who I was like, okay, well, great. We'll have this great conversation, talk about all that type of stuff. Well, what she had to offer me was a knee replacement. I was like, what? This is only hurt one time. There's pop. Now it doesn't really, what do you mean knee replacement? Or cortisone injection. She's like, oh, well, eventually look at your knee. It's full of arthritis. I'm like, yeah, I see that, but it doesn't hurt. I don't care how much arthritis I have in my knee if it doesn't hurt. Right. So those were the only two options. And she said to me, she's like, do you mind if I ask why you don't want the cortisone injection? And I thought I was truly trying to be a patient, like trying not to.
Because I am knowledgeable.
To just be a patient. Right. Yeah. But she asked me, she said, why don't you want to do the cortisone injection? And I started talking about the research. And she goes, oh, you would need hundreds of those shots in order to have that, create damage in your knee. And I was like, how many other people are you saying this to? How many other people are getting the wrong information about everything, about the medications, or no information, right? Maybe it's not wrong. It's just they're not given any information. So then I got mad and I was like, that's it. How can I get this information out to people? Not again, that medication's wrong or that, or orthopedic surgeons are wrong. Just again, to give people the information to educate themselves so they can make the decisions, and they're not given information that is in direct contrast to the new research that's out there.
It's amazing when doctors, they don't want to continue to learn, and chiropractors, anyone in healthcare, they just go off of what they've learned before in school 20, 30 years ago, or the last conference that was sponsored by a pharmaceutical company or something like that, that
Right.
gave information they wanted to hear.
Right.
They wanted to push out there for one too. So it's almost like we're meant to trust, we're told to trust doctors, but when we think about it, if we're not getting better and we're not getting right information, it's almost a form of malpractice.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean that my program is for everybody. I see the people that aren't getting better, right? So there's plenty of people that are going through conventional medicine that are fine, that are doing well, they're doing fantastic. But for the people it's not working for, like for me, my son's now 26, so 25 years ago it wasn't working for me. For other people it's not working for. There are other options, and it's just a matter of having a resource to go to and be like, what are my options? Why and who can I take this information to discuss to help me?
And I think having something like that out there allows people to start thinking, like you had mentioned, just think, am I getting what I want to get? Does this person have the right knowledge I really want? And when they start, for one, calling defensive, I go, oh, I got to go somewhere else. Right. This is your second opinion. This is your next, I want to call it, specialist doctor reading the book. At that point, it gives that information to see. Book should be out in March.
Yeah, mid-March, about March 15th to 20th, somewhere in there is going to be the publication date. People can, I think in the show notes, you're going to put my contact information so people can reach out and get on the pre-sale list. So you'll know first before it comes out when you call that number or send an email to us so that we can get the book in people's hands as soon as possible.
Yeah, in the show notes, I have both your website, the phone number. I'll put in there all telehealth information too, where they can exit email. And or I'm assuming on the website, you'll have a little link to buy the book too.
Absolutely. Yep.
Perfect. Anything I missed today you wanted to bring up?
Let me think.
From this Wisconsin area?
I think the biggest thing that we may have touched on a little bit is the accountability aspect for the patients and to not give up, right? So if you feel like there should be something else that could help you, keep looking, right? Keep educating yourself, have a little bit of skeptical nature and not just, throwing money at everything. But, do some research. It's all up to you and make sure that things are evidence-based, right? Everything we do is evidence-based. And make sure that, and also traditional, right? So a lot of the herbals have evidence, but also traditional, right? And so keep looking, keep striving, because we want you to be as active for as long as possible to have that life that you long for.
Do you like when patients ask questions?
I do. I really do. And many times my patients tell me, the physician or the provider gets angry when I ask questions. I don't. I love it. I love when they ask questions. And also I learn from my patients every day, right? There might be the supplement that I need to look into. There might be this test that I need to look into. So I love when my patients ask questions. Now I do have a time frame, right? That within my within the treatment session. However, we're not seeing patients for 10 minutes and they're gone, which is the problem with regular conventional medicine, right? A lot of times they get irritated because they have to see 20, 30, 35 patients a day, every 10 minutes or something. We don't. We have that one-on-one care.
And that would be my biggest thing for a patient is if your doctor does start getting defensive or impatient when you start asking more than 2 or 3 questions, you got to go, okay, is this someone here really looking at my health I can trust, or someone just looking for the next patient?
Yeah. And in their defense, if they're in a system, they're under pressure to have to perform and see those patients in a ridiculously unrealistic time frame for them to get any real information from the patient.
And some doctors can do that. I'm not a robot, so sorry. Try to actually crack a joke with my patients as much as I can. That's my plan every day. Yeah. Anything else, Miss Stacy, you want to talk about?
I think that's it. I really so appreciate your time, really do. And I hope that this information helps somebody out there.
It's going to help everyone. And like I said, with your book too, it can help people that are ready when they're ready.
Right.
I think that's the plan. So 5-second smile for the thumbnail.
All right.
And we're good. Thanks for watching, my friends. I'll repost this later on for one too. And have a good day. And we'll end